Procrastination. Procrastination is often misunderstood as laziness, but in reality, it is a psychological avoidance mechanism. People procrastinate not because they lack ability, intelligence, or discipline, but because starting a task creates emotional discomfort. That discomfort may come from fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not doing it perfectly, or simply feeling overwhelmed by the size of the task. The brain is wired to avoid pain and seek comfort. So when a task feels emotionally heavy, the mind chooses short-term relief, scrolling, sleeping, or distraction, instead of long-term growth. Over time, this avoidance becomes a habit, and guilt, stress, and anxiety start to accumulate. How to break it? Stop waiting for motivation. Start with just 5 minutes of action. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Once momentum starts, resistance drops. Overthinking. Overthinking is a loop where the mind repeatedly analyzes the past or predicts negative futures. It feels productive, but it is actually mental noise without resolution. People overthink because the brain wants certainty and control. When life feels uncertain, the mind believes that thinking more will protect you from danger or mistakes. However, most overthinking is not problem solving. It's fear recycling itself. The brain keeps replaying scenarios to feel prepared, but instead it increases anxiety, confusion, and mental fatigue. Over time, overthinking disconnects people from action and traps them in indecision. How to break it? Move from thinking to doing. Write your thoughts down to empty the mind. Then take one small, real-world action. Clarity comes from movement, not thinking. Constant self-doubt. Self-doubt is not modesty or humility. It is a learned habit of distrusting your own judgment and abilities, even when evidence proves you are capable. This habit usually forms through repeated criticism, comparison with others, or growing up without validation. Over time, the mind internalizes the belief that it is not enough. Even success gets dismissed as luck. Self-doubt keeps people stuck because they hesitate, over-prepare, or avoid opportunities altogether, believing they are not ready yet, even when they are. How to break it? Replace inner criticism with evidence. List what you've already survived and achieved. Confidence is built through proof, not positive thinking. Endless comparison. Comparison happens when you measure your life using someone else's journey, pace, or results. This habit steals peace because it ignores context. Social media intensifies this problem by showing only highlights, success, beauty, wealth, without struggle or failure. The brain forgets that it's seeing a filtered reality and begins judging its own behind-the-scenes life as inferior. Over time, comparison creates dissatisfaction, impatience, and the feeling that you are always behind, no matter how much progress you make. How to break it? Compare yourself only with your past self. Limit social media exposure. Focus on progress, not position. People-pleasing. People-pleasing is the habit of prioritizing others' approval at the expense of your own needs. It is not kindness, it is self-neglect. People-pleasers fear rejection, conflict, and disapproval. Deep down, they believe love and acceptance must be earned through compliance. As a result, they overextend themselves, suppress boundaries, and feel resentment and exhaustion. The more they say yes to others, the more disconnected they become from themselves. How to break it? Understand this truth. Being liked is not more important than being respected. Practice saying no without explanation. Perfectionism. Perfectionism is fear wearing the mask of high standards. Perfectionists delay starting or finishing because they fear criticism, failure, or exposure. They wait for ideal conditions, more preparation, or perfect timing, none of which ever arrive. Doing nothing feels safer than doing something imperfect. Over time, perfectionism leads to stagnation, missed opportunities, and chronic dissatisfaction. How to break it? Aim for progress, not perfection. Release work when it's 70% ready. Improvement only happens after feedback, not before action. Done is always better than perfect. Chronic negativity. Chronic negativity is a mental habit where the brain automatically scans for problems, threats, and failures. It often develops after repeated disappointments or emotional pain. The brain learns to expect danger to protect itself. While this once helped survival, it now distorts perception. Positive moments are ignored, while negative ones dominate attention, creating constant dissatisfaction and stress. How to break it? Train your brain daily. Each night, write 3 things that went right. This practice forces the mind to notice balance, not just threat. Gratitude slowly rewires perception. Fear of success. Fear of success sounds illogical, but it's real. Success brings visibility, responsibility, and change. People fear higher expectations, loss of identity, or losing relationships that no longer fit. Staying small feels familiar and safe. So the mind subconsciously sabotages progress through delay or self-doubt. How to break it? Visualize success realistically, not dramatically. Accept that growth always feels uncomfortable at first. Discomfort is not a warning, it is a signal of expansion. You don't avoid fear by staying small. You outgrow it by moving forward. Blame shifting. Blame shifting is the habit of avoiding responsibility to protect the ego. Instead of asking what can be improved, the mind looks for external reasons, people, systems, or circumstances. This feels emotionally safe, but it removes personal power. When everything is someone else's fault, nothing is in your control. Growth begins only when ownership replaces excuses, because responsibility is the doorway to real change. How to break it? Ask one question daily. What part of this is my responsibility? Even partial ownership restores power. Ownership equals control. Guilt and shame. Guilt and shame are often confused, but they work differently. Guilt focuses on behavior. I did something wrong. Shame attacks identity. I am something wrong. When mistakes are not processed properly, guilt turns into shame and traps people in self-punishment. True growth comes from separating who you are from what you did, learning the lesson, and letting go. How to break it? Separate your identity from your mistakes. Learn the lesson, then let it go. Self-forgiveness is not denial, it is maturity. Growth begins where self-punishment ends. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe for such kind of informative videos.